All right. Well, thank you, Alfonso, and welcome everybody to this talk. So yes, we're talking about design systems. What it is a design system, what should be a design system, a good design system, and which are the cultural changes that are needed to achieve that substantial tool. So first, let's discuss, or let's start with who am I, right? So I'm going just to make you a brief introduction about my, let's say, my career and my skills as a designer. So okay, great.
Vale, okay. Uh, Hello, everybody. I don't know if you can hear me now. Okay, no se oye.
All right, can you hear me?
Can you?
Hello,
Hello? I don't know if anybody on the chat can tell me anything.
hello. 1 2 3, 1 2 3.
Yes, finally. Okay, perfect, good. So, I don't know. Okay, I'm just gonna make a brief recap of everything that happened here. Uh, just Nacho is gonna talk about flame and cultural around design system. And go ahead, please.
All right, so I don't know if you hear me anything or just some parts of what I've already said, but anyway, we're here to talk about what it is a design system, but moreover, what should be a design system, and which should be the cultural adjustments in any organization to achieve this this step forward in design and the organization of the workflow. So let's start with, well, just a brief introduction of who am I. So I'm going to give you just some recap of what has been my career on the last years. So my first contact with the design was in 1996 when I started working in a graphic design agency. Then in the year 2000, I was a madman for a while, and I started working as an art director in a big advertising agency. But in 2006, I discovered that design was more than colors, it was more than just the aesthetic part, and I became very interested in information design, reading patterns, conversion rates, and I started to apply those key knowledge on online design. In 2007, I made a summer trip to the United States, where when the iPhone was just released, and well, for me it was like something that really changed my point of view. Not only because of the hype, but really when I experienced that device, it was like, hey, this is something that goes beyond the hype. It was something related with the performance, well, but also with the experience, with the way of understanding the business and the way of doing of getting access to the huge wall of internet through those apps that really make the experience more relevant for the user. So when I came back into Spain, it was like, hey, we have to do something on here. I think this we have to focus on those so-called apps and so on. Oh, well, and I think I was not really wrong with that perception. So in 2010, I became fully committed with the digital design. In 2011, I made my first big app. It was the banking app for Santander Mexico. It was a huge challenge at that time to face with not just designing one or two views or one or two screens, but also thinking with several flows and managing that those characteristics that I think a good designer, a digital designer, has to have. that manage the design part, the product part, the technological part. So in 2012, I made a step and I became an entrepreneur, which is a cool word, but it's really hard. I can promise you. In 2016, I became part of Santander as well. As I mentioned, in years ago, I started my relation with Santander, and when Santander decided to have an in-house design team, they called me, and so I became one of the design leads there. And 1 year ago, I moved from Santander Spain to Santander global team in order to lead and to try to align all the local teams and all the countries and all the business teams there in order to achieve one cohesive experience. So, what are we going to talk about today? As I mentioned, we're going to talk about what a design system is, but more important, what it should be. I think a good design system has to go beyond component libraries, has to be aimed on the creation process. It's about making the time to process not shorter but more efficient, and we will talk about it. It's about at the end improving the quality. So at the end of this talk, we'll talk about all the cultural alignments that, from my point of view, during all these years, have to happen in a corporation. So, just a few weeks ago, we made public all the documentation of Flame, our design ecosystem, and later we will talk about why it's more than a design system, but an ecosystem. And so I would like to talk you why we end into that, which are the characteristics of Flames, and which are the cultural adaptations. But prior to that, please let me go back in time and let me put you in context into the Santander culture, right? So, long time ago, Santander were the what I call the empire times. It was a very centralized organization where everything that happens in the countries in terms I'm talking about of digital products was decided in the headquarters. So if Mexico wants to release a new app, well, it was not only made in the headquarters but also decided which are the features, which is the roadmap, which should be, of course, the visual appearance and all that time. So those are the times of the empire. But that empire was we've moved into what I call the feudal lords time. Uh, that link among the headquarters and the countries was cut, and we move into a time of the feudal lords where each of the countries were the responsibles of deciding the roadmap, their features, of course, also the visual appearance of the digital products. And well, we've moved into we became a large, complex, and decentralized organization. This decentralized model has some upsides for sure. I mean, thanks to that, Santander was able to be really attached to local reality. Each of the countries were able to provide a quick feedback to their user. We gain in agility, in flexibility, but also this provokes some downsides. Mainly, we get into a lack of communication. I mean, every digital team was absolutely independent from the rest, with no communications. We did not know who was in charge in Santander UK, or who was the responsible for the latest release of the app in Poland. Not at all. It was for sure no collaboration among the different design teams. That lead into a diluted branding. At the end, yeah, right. We are the red flame, but That's it. The flame at the end, I mean, the brand at the end was not really consistent at all, and that means some poor efficiency. That had tangible consequences, a weak consistency. This is an actual overview of some of the digital products when I start working as global coordinator of the visual and UI part in Santander. And as you can see, well, yes, we're a white flame against a red background, but which tone of red? We found out of 8 red tones, 5 different fonts, and moreover, there were no common interaction or mental model. So in June 2018, from the top management of the group, they say, okay, that's it, we have to move. Okay, it's not about coming back and being an empire anymore, but it's not about being so unconnected among the different teams. So the bank decided to launch a 90 days challenge. That means that in 2 different places, in Madrid and London, several squads working in Agile, building features to be used in every Santander app. Which features? Well, it was about those features that can be placed everywhere. So, for example, a branch locator. That has total sense. I mean, what's the point in creating a branch locator in Spain, a branch locator in UK, a branch locator in Argentina, in Brazil? Instead of that, why don't we do just one branch locator? We made some middleware adjustments to apply that branch locator in every market. As the branch locator, it was a financial agenda, some security layers, and a global design system. So wait a moment. It was like, okay, what? So you're saying that we have to create and adopt by every single country a global design system in just 90 days? So I think this would be my first lesson. Please learn to say no. Sometimes we tend to be in that momentum that lead us to try to achieve objectives that are not really affordable. But it's also true that when you're in a large corporation, saying no means no delivery. And so people are paying you to give a delivery. So I would say that this first lesson, it's about reframe your objective. So instead of building a global design system in 90 days, it's about this is the objective that I I established and I sold to the top management. So it was, let's do in 90 days the common elements that will lead us into a cohesive global design. So we start working into the first steps of the solution, what we call a design toolkit. So the idea is, okay, if we build our digital products with the same tools, the results are not going to be the same, but are going to be aligned. And this is what we have to achieve in 90 days. So a design toolkit was made out of some strong branding common tools. So we took the branding guidelines that the branding department has prepared, and we declined, or we took all those definitions into the digital world. So we took that color palette and translated to the needs that we have as digital designers in RGB and all those aspects. We took the fonts, we defined the icons, and so on. So we also defined which should be the common design principles that the Santander experience should be like. And we define some UI elements, some components. We create a very small set of the most commonly used components in the mobile experience. Then we create what we call the construction pyramid. This is really important because this establishes how flexible should be the elements in that design system, and later in that design toolkit, and later in that design system. So we define that at the base of the pyramid should be those elements that admit no flexibility, which are the branding elements. So this is the tone of red that you have to use. If someone said, I would like to use another tone of red, no, that's not possible. That's the tone of red of our brand. I would like to use another font. No, sorry, we have our cooperative font. You have to use it. So those are the elements that admit no flexibility. Then we have the common design principles, which are related to, okay, what should be our navigation patterns, what should be our interaction models. That admits at certain points some flexibility, because we just define which should be the framework, but each of the design teams should have to translate that framework to their actual needs and requirements. Then we create that UI elements that at that point it was not a mandatory. So we create a set of some buttons, some text fields, so and so, and we said to the countries, hey, we're thinking about this UI library. What do you think? Do you want to use it? Do you think this UI components is better than what you actually have? Okay, let's use it. And please let us know which are the results. And at the top, with the maximum flexibility, we said to the countries, hey, we know that you have some technological legacy, you have to fulfill with some legal compliance, so you have to be responsible to adapt this design toolkit to your requirements. So thanks to the design toolkit, I think we achieved three main objectives. The first was that we forged a global design community, because thanks to the construction during those 90 days of that design toolkit, we get in contact with all the design teams and all the design leads and heads. For the first time in many years, we had the confidence of talking directly with the different responsibles in, as I said, in Mexico, in Brazil, in Poland, in UK. We also set up each other's design foundations, and for the first time we have a unified vision that what should be the Santander experience, both from the branding side and from the digital design part. So during several months, we've been iterating this design system through that design community that we have forged. We iterate this design toolkit according to four main issues. First, it was how to make this design toolkit, more efficient, more simple, with more quality and more consistent. After those months, we considered that it was time to do a step forward. It was time to move from the design toolkit to the design system. And so in order to have a really powerful and a really useful design system for the entire Santander design community, we have to have a system, not just a collection of guidelines. We have to be sophisticated but easy to use. I think this is something key, because many design systems, in my opinion at least, tend to be very, very sophisticated, very, very complex, and that means that they are very, very difficult to use, because they are very large. It's very difficult. The findability of the components, it's very hard. It's very hard to add new components or to customize the components in the design system. So from the very beginning, we had very clear that our design system should be really easy to use. The third point is that our design system should be for designers and developers, because we believe that we are just one team. We have to have the tools and definitions for designers, but also we have to, our design system has to be a help for those in the development part. And the fourth, it has to be universal. It has to be consistent yet flexible. So let's go point by point. So our design system has to be focused on decreasing the development and design cost, make the time to market fast, increase the quality, and at the end make our designers and developers happier. So we've prepared just a video that express what's our design system. So I would like you to spend just 1 minute checking this video, and we will continue. All right. So this is a short video that express the main points, the highlights, the main points of our design system. Our design system is both global and local, flexible and consistent, accessible and always evolving. So what does it mean being global and local? What does it mean, that paradox that it's being consistent yet flexible? That paradox we solve it with what we call the Matryoshka doll model. So consider that our design system is indeed a system made out of system. That's why it's an ecosystem. So we have a big tier one, which is the global warehouse, where we have all the global definitions and all the components. But inside our global design system, we can host local design system for each of our local design teams or business units. So we can have a big design system, and inside we can have a design system with the variabilities and with the components that are relevant for Brazil, for the corporate banking business unit, and even we can have a tier 3. So those are the design microsystem. For example, maybe Brazil has a design system that inherits the components from the global design system, but Brazil has, for example, a team that is allocated just for the private banking. Private banking has their own color palette and has their own components. So Brazil can create a micro design system for that specific team inside their team. That would be the tier 3, the private banking team. So also, design system has to be universal. Traditionally, there is a big border among design teams and development teams. I consider that this is a mistake. We have to be one team. we have to build a design system that connects design and development. We have to have one single source of truth. That means that our design system has to have an equilibrium among these three parts of the triangle. It has to be consistent, it has to be flexible, it has to be for designers and developers. This is what it is, our design system. And this can be achieved thanks to design tokens. Probably some of you have heard about this concept, but I always love to talk about design systems with some metaphor. All right, so to talk about design system, it's like this famous picture from Magritte. Ceci n'est pas une pipe. This is not a pipe. This is a representation of a pipe. So in the same way, this is not a button. This is a button, and a button is made out of different variables that build that button. Indeed, the design tokens are agnostic transversal variables. So in that way, every button is made of different tokens with several values. So we have the token fill, the token border, the token layer, the token spacing, and that specific token may have different values. Maybe the value of the border is none, or maybe the value of the border is 4 pixels red. So the fact of having all our design components made out with tokens has two main upsides. The first is that we allowed a direct consumption by development teams of the components created by design teams. Traditionally, when a designer wants to consume some some component created by a designer, they have to go into Zeppelin, right? And then they have to read how was made that component in Sketch or in Figma. That means that developers have to do an interpretation of what design teams have made. And every interpretation means some transformation. Sometimes when you do an interpretation of every creation, that interpretation can be quite reliable, can be quite similar to the original one, to the original one. Some other time that interpretation can be interesting, but many other time that interpretation is, let's say, controversial, right? So thanks to the design token, we solve that, because as all our components are made out of design tokens, we have this key element in our design system, which is the design token. The token engine, sorry. The token engine is a scanner that reads all the design tokens that are in every design component and extract those values in a format that can be consumed directly by development teams. So that token engine can say can say to the developers, hey, this is the JSON file that where you can read and you can consume directly which are the values of this design of this design element. So these are the color, this is the size, this is the spacing, this is at the end, this is the exact description. It's not about interpreting what design has done, it's about consuming what design has done. The second main upside of design tokens, I would say, it's about the possibilities of maintenance and variability. So for that, I'm going to use a metaphor that Alfonso here likes to express, and I think it's a very good metaphor. Okay, let's think as each of our design components is like a prepared dish, right? So when a designer wants to create a new dish, they have to first choose the ingredients. That means choose which are the tokens. So I'm going to the token field and I'm going to use a certain value. I'm going to use the token font and I'm going to use certain value. I'm going to use a token shape and I'm going to use certain value. Then I'm going to cook that recipe. I'm going to mix all those tokens and then I'm going to have one recipe. So every component that we have in our design system is made with a sketch library, a token library, and a documentation. That allows that, for example, when we distribute our components to the designers in the local teams, could happen this situation. Designers in Mexico saying, okay, I like this definition of the button, but I would like to have it slightly different. Okay, that's fine. Then you just have to go back to the cook and cook again that recipe. So instead of the token color and decide that you want to use the value tomato red, I'm going to use the value green avocado. I'm going to cook it again and I'm going to have the same component but with a different value. That means that every design team can modify the components that we are distributing in the global design system and adapt that components to their local needs. Because indeed, we love flexibility, we love system flavors. Why is that? Well, okay, I want to talk you of an actual example that explains you how important is the possibilities of being flexible. This is the button that we have in the global proposition. This is painted with, as you can see, with this tone of red, which is the Santander red, and the shape is with 100 rounded corners. When we sent this to the Brazilian team, they said, you know what? We would like to have our buttons in this way. And we ask, okay, well, why is that? Why would you like to have with a different shape and a different color? And they said, well, you know, we have a graphic tradition, and for many years, all our digital products have had this size. Our buttons have these 4 pixels rounded corners. Okay, that's fine. And it's totally feasible. I mean, it would be naive from our side saying, okay, forget about all your graphic tradition. Now you have to move into this graphic tradition. The question would be, does it affect into the interaction efficiency that this button is with this size or with this shape or with this shape? Not at all. So that's okay. And what about the color? Why are you using that color? Okay, and they said, you know, in Brazil, many people have cheap Android devices. Those cheap Android devices, the graphic, they tend to elevate, to raise the hue of the colors. And so we detected that if we use Santander Red in large areas, the result is so flashy and annoying that it's not so nice. But if we use this tone of red, which is actually in the color palette that we are distributing, this what we call the Boston red, we detect that as the hue of the device tends to be so high, well, the result is similar, more similar to what you try to express than with using the original one. Well, that's perfectly fine. That's exactly the power of and how important is giving local teams to transform that global proposition to adapt it to the local requirements. I'm from Madrid. I'm I'm not able to identify that need that the Android devices in Brazil have that characteristic. I can do that. And that's perfectly fine. That's why we have a design team in Brazil, because they are the ones that knows more about their context and their reality. And there's no point that we come back into the emperor times where we decide from Madrid what to do globally. We have to provide some global definitions, but local teams should be the ones to decide how to land those global definitions to their reality. So with that, we end into, well, this is just an example. With this, we divide our design system in different tiers, so we can have one button that is transformed into different variations according to every context or product. That's why I insist this is not just a design system, but a global ecosystem. It's both flexible and consistent. And well, there are many points that we could be talking about, all the characteristics and all the features that are in our design system. But today I would like to talk all of you about how has been this fascinating trip and which are, from my point of view, the 20 learned lessons that we have come through in order to achieve this design system, and which has been the cultural adaptations that we have to move and modify in Santander, both globally and locally. So I would say that if you are facing a design system project, first, before doing anything, prior to start, you have to scan the surroundings. You have to map which is your current situation. And you have to start by asking yourself and your stakeholders several questions. First, which is the starting situation? How many design teams will consume the design system? Which is the head or lead designer of each team? Then you have to look if there is any brand department and if there is already any brand guidelines. If there are already any brand guidelines, start with that. First, try to identify not only which are the brand guidelines, but understand which is the intention behind those brand guidelines and transform those brand guidelines to your digital requirements. Then you have to do some assessment about which is the level of design maturity and check if there is already any design culture. Think or count how many design products are already in production, how many design products are planned to be launched, which are the outputs or results of these products, and which is the current consistency level. With that, and that's going to take you a while, but that's fine. You're actually building a design system, although you don't have any library at that point. With that, you are going to have some very valuable information that will allow you to know which are the points that you have to modify and which are the people that you need to talk with. The second lesson is about expanding your vision. A design system should go beyond design. So UI libraries, of course, are important in the design system, but I would say they are just the tip of the iceberg. I think you have to focus on making the design process more efficient. You have to broaden your vision and make a design system that goes from wireframing to front end to quality assurance. And then you have to evangelize your visions, because you're going to find many people in your organization that are going to ask you for deliveries and say, hey, you're working with this for 2 weeks. Where are the libraries? Okay, you have to convince them. we're already working on the design system, but a design system, I insist, is not just about the UI libraries. It's beyond. We are expanding the features and expanding the vision. Then the third lesson, it's about you have to identify your clients. You have to get to know them and know their circumstances. That means you have to know them deeply. You have to understand which other workflows. You have to understand to which corporate vertical do they belong. Do they belong to technology? Do they belong to product? Do they belong to branding, to marketing? Because with that information, you are going to be closer to understand which are their constraints and which are their expectations. Um, Also, you have to understand in which point they stand out and in which aspects they weaken, because you have to spend many time empathizing with them. You have to spend lots of time talking with them, understanding which are the pain points, which are their expectations. And with that, you have to always keep a goal in mind. A design system must be a help for them. It must be a help for the design teams, not an imposition. If you try to sell a design system as an imposition, I promise you, you are going to fail. You have to expose how a design system is going to help them. Many designers tend to see design system as something that is going to constrain their freedom, something that is going to make their life, let's say, more dull, more boring. You have to talk with them and understand why do they believe in that way, and make them understand that a design system is here to make their life easier. Then you have to look for allies. You have to look for those people that can help you in the adoption of that design system. And you have to align their objectives with yours. You have to seduce them. Which should be the allies? Well, obviously design teams, but also brand and marketing teams, and what I call the design lovers. What's design lovers? Okay, design lovers are those people that maybe they are not part of any design teams, or they are not part of any brand team, or has nothing to do with design, but are those people that I love design. Yes, I love what you do. I always want to be a designer. Okay, that people can be a pain in the ass because they can be professional opinators. So you have to take the lead and seduce them. You have to make them be aligned with you. So you have to, you can take two different ways, whether to ignore them, which is quite risky, I would say, because if those design lovers are in the top management level, at the end they are come back to you and say, "Nah, I don't like what you are doing. I will do this in this way," although they know nothing about design. So instead of ignoring them, seduce them, talk with them, and expose to them what you are using. If you have the authority and you have the knowledge, I assure you, you are going to get those design lovers in love with you and with your task and with your duties. The fifth lesson is about beginning also always with a small team, because for many weeks you are going to be working on a design teams and you are not going to be able to provide any delivery. So keep the cost at a low level, because and that if you are not incurring in high costs, well, no one is going to bother you. if you try to have a big team from the very beginning, I think it's going to be very risky. Instead of that, start with a small team and grow that team as the product and the adoption of your design system grows. The sixth is about, okay, get to it, assume it. You are not the smartest one. There will always be someone who knows more than you. So probably you have read lots of things about design systems, about design, but there will always be someone who knows more about design system and design in the broad sense. So look for the best and call them. In that way, I met Alfonso in a dinner years ago, and well, we discussed about it, and at the end, we are here working together with extremely powerful team. And thanks to Alfonso and his team, we have achieved what we have already. So do not be, do not have, oh, sorry. Do not be, do not have fear in showing that you don't know about everything. That's okay. Just call for the ones that knows it. What you have to do when you call someone that knows a lot is that you have to learn to identify where the value is. These people are going to get to you with lots of ideas, lots of new features. Well, you are the one that has to decide what to do first and what to do second, or what to do and never, because many times it's like, okay, that's a great idea, but not for today, or maybe not for this company. So that's okay. That's your task. You have to prioritize that roadmap, and you have to help your team to clean their corporate noise. You have to keep them aside from all those political noises that are going to arise during the whole process. The seventh is about making a public statement. The first public statement is about defining what should be a design system. For me, a design system is a tool, no more, no less. That means that a design system has to have one clear goal: make the creation and maintenance process more efficient. That's it. That means that probably you are going to read lots of books and articles about design system that tend to make the design system like as the silver bullet that solve all your problems. Unfortunately, that's not the way it works. A design system is a tool, a very powerful tool, but just a tool. You are going to still need lots of other features, talent, and capabilities to make a really good output. The second public statement, it's about what should be the goal of a design system. Many times you would hear that the design system is about reducing the time to market. I would say yes, but no. It's about reducing the time to market, but moreover, it's about making the time to market more efficient and valuable. So without a design system, normally this is the way we tend to distribute our time, right? So we spend a lot of time in development, lots of time in the UI part, in the visual part, and well, some time in the UX. With a design system, we can reduce drastically the time dedicated to the UI. We can reduce the time to development, and that makes the time for the UX can grow exponentially. With that, I mean that you can have time to dedicate your talent to what is really valuable. Thinking about the flows, okay, thinking about if we can do this flow or this feature in 2 steps, 3 steps, or just 1 step. Check if the reading pattern works better in this way or in this other way. Check if the call to action has more conversion rate if we place it in this point of the process or in this other place in this other place of the process. That's from my side, from my point of view, what a design system can provide. A design system it's going to give you lots of free time to explore valuable and very interesting things that many times without a design system we do not have the opportunity to explore. The third public statement that you will have to do is defining how the design system is going to help you as a designer. You have to talk with your design teams and tell them that a design system is not here to make your job. Because, as I mentioned, you have to get them know that local teams and designers on the field are the ones that knows better their local context. And therefore, those teams and those designers are the ones that must decide how to land that global definition. So you have to manage the expectation, because by managing those expectations, you also are empowering local teams. So in that sense, doing some metaphor, I would say that the design system is like the artillery. You're going to provide a big support to the local teams, but at the end, local teams are the infantry, and local teams are the ones that are going to take that trench, are the ones that are going to decide how to attack that trench and take that position. You can support them with the design system, with that artillery effort, but this design team, are the ones that are actually going to do the hard job, and that way you are empowering them about how important are going to be them even with a design system. A design system is not here to make their job. The eighth lesson is about always when you're building a design system, define which is your construction pyramid. Define what should be flexible and what should be non-flexible at all. The ninth lesson, it's about, I would say, start with the easy home runs. So when you start by defining which are the design foundations, I think that's a big home run, because when you create a color palette, then the color palette is well crafted. You have and you have prepared which are the combinations of the color combination that works, which are the color combinations that ensures the accessibility standards are okay. If you create a font, or if you buy a font and you distribute it to your designers, you create an icon family and you distribute that icon family, you create those grids. Because come on, for us as a designer, creating a grid is like, it's not really giving you any value. It's something very tedious and boring, but you have to do it. If you start building your design system with those big home runs, that implies that you are going to have a big impact, because when all the design products at least have the same color palette, the same fonts, the same icon family, the same grids, it's like, hey, everything start to look alike in a very consistent way. And also for designers, adopt those foundations are really a low effort task. It's like, okay, sure, I have to use that grid, that's great, and then I don't have to create any grid. Those are the color palettes and those are the color combination, that's great, I don't have to think about that. So start with the easy home runs. The 10th lesson is about enlarging your stakeholders. As I mentioned, making the process more efficient means involving all the teams in the creation process. So do not just focus on designers, but look also for which are your stakeholders in the product part, in the front end part, in the QA part, marketing, brand, and again, get to know them, collect their expectation, and identify which is the opportunities that you found out from those conversations. The 11th lesson is about engaging your stakeholders by moving into a model where you create your components and distribute it to your teams, to a co-creation model where you create components, you distribute it to your teams, but you also give them the opportunity of creating components and add them into the design system. With that decentralized model, you are engaging them. You're making them feel important because they are important, and I think this is something key of any design system. You have to take advantage of anything that has already been done. If, for example, the UK team has created, has think or has documented which should be the inclusive tone of voice. Okay, take it and add it to your design system. If the team from Brazil has created a new way of depicting tables or a new way of doing the tabs, and you think that's okay, take it and make it yours, because that's what is about the design system. It's avoiding weird reinterpretation. If someone has invented it, well, use it. Also, with that, you are going to ensure that you have a frequent contact with your clients and stakeholders. Thanks to those co-creation sessions, you are going to be constantly in touch with them, and you are constantly have that feeling of which are their expectations, which are the pain points, which are the features that you have to add in your design system according to those insights that you have received. The 12th lesson, it's about please avoid committee design. When I said that you have to co-create, that's true. But if you want to co-create starting from a blank page, I promise you it's going to be inferno. Because when you go into a committee and say, okay, let's discuss, how do you think it should be our text fields? And you open a discussion, everyone is going to make their own point of view, the other one is going to make their own point of view, and it's going to be very difficult to get into agreement. Instead of that, lead the conversation. Lead that conversation with some initial proposition. So go into that co-creation session and say, hey, now we're talking about text fields. I think text fields should be in this way. And you take your proposition of which are the behavior of that text field, which are the different stage, which is the visual appearance, and start discussing from that. That doesn't mean that you are saying, hey, this is the way to do our design, our text fields. Not at all. You are just leading the conversation. You start iterating that co-creation session from an initial proposal. And that's going to make things much more easier. Because at the end, what you have to have in those co-creation session is being flexible, but always keep your vision. So you have to be very flexible, but you have to be in mind, okay, that's I'm not going to change that. That's against our design foundation, or that's against our design principles. So keep in mind what's flexible again and what shouldn't be flexible. 13, the hunger theory. So this is one of my theories that express how can you evolve your design system. So that is that when you're evolving your design system, first you have to establish which should be the different parts or features of the design system and launch those new features as trial balloons. What does it mean? Okay, if you are going to create a new icon family, or you are going to launch the token values, or you're going to launch a new definition for private banking. Okay, you can do, you can. Okay, let's say, okay, I'm going to wait until I don't have 500 icons that ensure that covers all our needs. I'm not going to launch anything, or I'm not going to launch my token definition till I don't have it completely done. Well, instead of that, do those trial balloons. I mean, launch it with small portions. So when you do it in that way, you have to wait for your client complaint, saying someone is going to say, hey, the number of icons is very short, or those spacing variable don't solve our problems, or hey, this is not enough for a private banking product. Great. If you have received complaints, bingo. That means that your clients have tasted your dish, they like it, and they want more. That means that you're on the good path. Then you can improve and you can enlarge those features and improve those features. In many occasions, you're going to launch those trial balloons, and you're going to receive no feedback, nor positive nor negative. That means that that's not relevant. Therefore, that means that you have not wasted your effort in a new feature that is not really relevant. So always remember, lots of dishes but small portions. 14, keep your eyes on the goal, not on the road. So always keep in mind which is your vision and broad objectives. Always keep in mind what's flexible and what is not. And moreover, decide which battles deserve fighting. You are going to have lots of discussions. And if you want to fight every point, and you are going to be really, let's say, with a square mind vision, it's going to be exhausting. Instead of that, decide which time it's okay, let's do it in that way, or okay, that's something that really doesn't add any value or doesn't affect to the core of the project. Therefore, let's move it, let's adapt it. Or there are other ways that really goes against your vision. When something goes against your vision, fight for it. It deserves it. 15th, small boats also cross the oceans. So you have to embrace, in my point of view, Agile's mindset about MVPs. So do not wait to have a transoceanic design system. Do not wait to have a design system that it has all the features, all the problems solved, has hundreds or thousands of components. No, I think you have to start with small boats, with a small definition, small MVPs of design system. Those small design systems are easier to modify its heading, are better to explore routes, because otherwise, if you wait to have the design system, well, probably you are going to waste your money, efforts, and resources in something that maybe is not what your company really needs. 16, don't get in love and be prepared to kill your kids. Many times when you're facing a new project, you have lots of new ideas and new initiatives that are great, but just in your mind. So always confront your ideas before landing those ideas into an actual feature or an actual framework or an actual tool. Confront that ideas with your stakeholders and clients. Ask them, what do you think? I'm thinking about doing that. What do you think? That will give you some value, some ideas about how feasible it is, which is the relation among the efforts and the benefits. And that's okay. If you have an idea that doesn't that it has not it hasn't been received positively, well, that's life. If you have launched something and has been a failure, well, that's it. Failures are always learning. And I think we as digital designer, we have to get rid of the fear of failing. Failures, when you are able to read those failures, are always great ways to learn and to make your product in the midterm much more powerful and efficient. The 16th lesson is tools and frameworks are always welcome, because when you create new components or new tokens, that's fine, and people are going to receive it with normally with open arms. But when you create new tools or frameworks, they are always very well received. At least that's my that's my experience. I mean, when you create a new tool that helps teams to have their own illustrations, or a framework that helps teams to generate new app icons, or you create an haptic definition where you establish which are the axes to have an haptic experience, and you allow local teams to play around with those tools. It's like, hey, people like to play around, and they always very very positive. So for example, this is an example, and in the video was already shown the illustration tool. So with that illustration, you can, as a designer, you can play around, and from an initial illustration, you can play around and modify its tone of skin, its hairdo, the color of her clothes, some parts of their legs, add a new background, so on, so on, so on. So you give them the opportunity to play around with a closed set of options, because otherwise, if you open too much the options, at the end that cohesive experience is not going to be achieved. But if you give them the opportunity to play around with a closed set of options, at least, as I said, that's my experience. Those kind of new features are very well received. 18. Design systems are a great means to expand corporate responsibility issues. So accessibility is, for example, in Europe, with the new European Accessibility Act, that is going to be have accessibility standards. It's not just a recommendation, but a legal requirement. Therefore, accessibility has to be a key element in your design system. In my opinion, design products for all means designing better products. I mean, because at any time we can be disabled people. And let me put an example. If we're doing a withdrawal of money in an ATM, and we have the sun in our back, and the sun is lighting to the screen of our ATM, if that ATM has not been designed with a high contrast definition, with an accessible point of view, we are not going to see anything on that screen. So at that point, we are temporarily disabled. If we have done our designs with an accessible perspective, we are therefore designing products for all, and we are designing better products. So always place your UI libraries that should be at least AA accessibility compliance. You have to also place in the documentation, translate the web content accessibility guidelines in a contextual and easy way to use. And that's my recommendation, at least. Do not please place the accessibility information in a separated chapter, or like saying, okay, I have to fulfill with the accessibility documentation. Then the last two chapters are going to be about accessibility. Instead of that, why don't you place that accessibility information all across the documentation? So in that way, you are also giving the information about how relevant is for your company the accessibility and the inclusivity. The 19th lesson is always measure and rethink. So prepare once that you have done your design system, think into a model to identify which are the actual efficiency. Think about a model to identify how much your design system is being used and how much your design system is helping your company to improve its efficiency. Those are actual screen views of the dashboard that we have in Santander, where we measure the efficiencies of our design system. Thanks to that, we have identified that we are saving around 36% of hours in UI design, and also we are launching usage stat satisfaction service. And with those services, for example, we identified that as the design system was growing and growing and growing, the findability of the components was becoming quite hard. So we identified that, and we create a new information architecture. We also identified that, for example, there were some opportunities to grow in our design system. For example, we identified, thanks to that survey, that we had nothing related with data visualization, that we as a bank, we are constantly dealing and struggling with those needs, and therefore we are preparing a new release of the design system that will have those components ready to be used. And last but not least, give credit. I mean, if your design system couldn't happen without many people, then many people should be part of that recognition. Remove your ego. Everyone, even if it was just one conversation, or it was just they help you in a difficult situation, or they just give you some documentation or give some advice, well, give them recognition. So thanks many people. Alfonso is one of the people here, and I think there are many other people in this room. So thank you all sincerely for taking us into here. And well, this is just the beginning of the road. We'll continue improving Flame Design System and making it a helpful tool for many teams in Santander. And well, that has been all from my side. I don't know if you have question or concern.
Okay.
I'm all yours.
First of all, thank you. I just want to check that everybody can hear me now, just to, not continue with these long traditional screwing up on online events. So if nobody's saying anything on the chat, presume that everything is okay. So
all right,
let's continue with him. Perfect. So thank you so much. first of all, this is the first time that we have, such a large organization. So it is great that in inside you can give us the insight from from Santander point of view and focus on the cultural level. So till people start putting questions and you can answer them. I was thinking is like from the top of your mind what it will be the major and the big if you had to give something to somebody who in another big and large organization, something that you don't have to miss this when you start when you are doing your design system, what it would be.
I would say, yeah, especially if it's on a large organization, take whatever time you need to map your current situation, to identify which are your stakeholders, to identify how many teams are you going to deal, which are their needs, their expectations. Otherwise, you're going to launch a design system that probably it's very powerful. But maybe it's not what your organization really needs. So prior doing anything, spend as many time as you need talking with the actual people that are working on design and or has relation with design as developers, as product, as QAs. Because with that you're going to have a clear picture. In some cases, maybe it's about okay, we just have to do some visual definition. In other, it's about we have to do some connections with the design and developments. In other, it's about the problems is the connection of the business side with the design side. I think that's the first part. The other part, it's always think in a design system as part of the entire process. Do not just focus on the design part. That's going to be, yeah, as I said, the tip of the iceberg. That's going to be useful for sure. There's no doubt about it. And then for maybe, probably you will have to need to start with that side. But if you really want to make a step forward and you really want to change things deeply, go into the process. Those, I think, were my two main recommendations.
Okay, good. Thank you. Look, we get here the first question. Thank you. It's from Gorit van Hertrum. I'm sorry for I'm saying something awful with your name, but I'm really sorry. Is your design system focused only on visual design, or does it also incorporate UX principles?
That's okay. That's a really good question. According to our iterative point of view, we have created the visual part. We have also documented some parts related with UX, mainly with navigation patterns and with reading patterns and UX writing, for example. But from now on, this is one of the things that I think has to be the key in our new releases. It's about we have to think not just providing single UI components, but providing templates and providing broad solutions. In banking experience, there are several flows that we have identified that are quite common, and we have lots of data, of user data, that with that data we can know which are the flows and that works better in terms of user experience. And absolutely, we are just about defining which are those templates and which are those UX frameworks to be added in the next releases.
Yeah, okay, great. Look, the next question comes from Paula Sempere. And could you tell us a little bit more about how do you monitor the adoption of the design system? Do you get data from InVision or Sketch Cloud?
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's a good one. Indeed, this is one of the key elements that we have asked both to Sketch and InVision to have to be able. Well, this is something that I have not mentioned, but we are distributing our design system through DSM, Design System Manager by InVision, which allows us that all the design teams in Santander are consuming the latest version of the design system. And what we have asked to InVision is that we want to know exactly, component by component, how much is that component being used in which project, so on, so on. So this is something that we are preparing that technological capabilities, and we hope to have it ready for the next year. With Figma, that we're thinking about also supporting Figma, which is becoming a bigger key player. We have that more ready, and therefore we hope to have that solved. So how we monitorize how the design system is being made? Well, luckily, thanks to that design community that I talked to all of you, we are keep in contact with them. So whether those people, those local teams tell us, hey, we're using that design system in that, but also as all the teams now we're using the same InVision account, we have a corporated InVision account, we can have access to all the InVision projects, and therefore we are able to check how and in which products is the design system being used.
Okay, perfect. Look, next question again for Gorit. Can you elaborate more about on how the design system is used in the hand of to developers? Is there
Mhm.
a technical relation to the actual CSS?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Um, so as all our components, both for mobile and for both for web, are tokenized, and therefore all our components are made out of those tokens. We have that piece in there that I mentioned, which is the design the design engine, the token engine. Sorry, that token engine reads all the information, all the values of each of the components, and extract a CSS that can be modified according to the syntaxes or to the needs of each of the development teams. So what we can have is that a button or a table or a text field, we can have all that information in a JSON CSS adapted to Swift, to Last, to SES, to LESS, to XML for Android, and then can be read by development teams. Those package of information are distributed to NPN in a Nexus pipeline that we have in the bank, and therefore all those development teams can have access to that definition directly. What we would like to do in the very next future is not just having the definition of the design components, but also have a complete library of components. Probably we'd like to do it in web components, with not just the definition of the components, but also adding behavior and functionality, and therefore distribute with that distribution through NPN. All developers in Santander can have access to a complete set of UI components, as I said, just with the snippet code ready to be copy and paste, let's say.
Okay, perfect. Look, we got another question from Soul of an Angel 2. Uh, how has the design system been validated?
How fast the design
No,
system
no.
is validated?
How has the design system been validated? I mean, how do you validate? Did you validate the design system, or through the whole process existence of the design system? Was the moment that you validate that your value proposition is useful for the organization?
Well, I think that's if I tell you it was validated on that particular time, I think that would be a failure. I mean, I think that wouldn't be a nice way of doing that. Precisely, instead of doing just one single validation or saying, okay, this is the validation time, or this is the week for validating, we're constantly validating. We are doing constantly updating and improving the design system, launching those trial balloons, those hunger theory that I mentioned, and constantly, and I promise, is constantly confronting those new that design system with local teams. We also have something that I have not talked about it, but in order to ensure that we have a nice way of I mean, a government model for that, we have what we call the Global Task Force. A Global Task Force is a regular meeting that we have the heads or the leads of each of the team that are actually using the design system. And in that meeting, we discuss about new components created locally, and we share those components created locally with the rest of the teams. And then we evaluate if that component deserves to become part of the global definition, and therefore is validated and be used globally, or if it's just used in that particular country, or if it's just not even a component, it's just a snowflake, a component that it's not going to be reused and therefore doesn't deserve to be part of the design system. So we're constantly validating the design system. We're constantly thinking and rethinking about if what we are doing is it's really valuable or not. For example, last week we had a conversation with a team from Argentina. They are taking the values, the design principles and the design foundations, and they are rethinking in a midterm evolution of the visual layer. That's fine. We're open to constantly revalidate and rethink about our releases. I don't think that's solve your question.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Next one is going to be from Maria Rey. Does DSM work well for native apps? I mean, a suitable component for iOS or Android, for example, could be extracted from that.
I mean, I don't know if I understood the question. I mean, DSM is it's the delivery guide, right? So our design system can be distributed, or any design system can be distributed in many ways. But at the end, when you have lots of libraries, as it's our situation, well, then the traditional way, are as we used to do it when this was like, okay, we have a mailing list, and hey, here you have the zip package, please unlock it, detach your libraries of your sketch, and link to this new package of libraries. Well, it was not really useful, and at the end, many teams are using an updated libraries. So what the DSM does is that connects our design system with the sketch of each of the design team member to use our design system. In that DSM, you will find lots of libraries. You will find some libraries for with native components to be used in Android or iOS applications, or you have another library to be used in web applications. So you can use, as I said, DSM to distribute your design system in a nice way, and be sure that all your designers are using the latest version.
Okay. And here we have the latest question that comes from Tomás Anton Escobar. Uh, how do you deal with cultural and social aspects of each country? Language, tone, pictures, and also how do you deal with the legacy of each backend system of each country?
All right. Well, that's key. I mean, for us, what we have done, for example, in terms of the cultural aspects, for example, well, I mentioned the example, which is just a tip, an example of the with the buttons in the global definition and in the Brazilian definition, but it has to do also with the graphical tradition, and well, with the context. So we encourage local teams to translate the global definition into their actual needs, into their cultural needs. And that's why I think it's extremely important in big corporation as ours to have very clear your construction pyramid. Be clear from the very beginning what should be rigid and what should be flexible. I mean, if someone from UK say, I don't want to use the Santander font, I want to use Helvetica. Well, come on. I'm sorry, but there's no discussion about that. That's part of the branding elements. It's not about my design, my decision even. But if someone from I don't know, from Chile says that well, or from, for example, from Dallas, they said, which is one of our teams, well, our CTAs tend to be in what we call the dark blue. That's fine. Dark blue is part of our color palette. Yes, it is. So yes, you can use the CTAs in that color if that's according to your tradition, or with the way your cultural aspects tend to interpret design. Also, in terms of documentation, we have prepared a very extensive documentation, which is in English as the lingua franca, but we are actually translating that documentation to the different languages. When saying translating, is not just I'm going to go into Google Translator and translate it. No, it's about we are doing that translation with local teams to, for example, and that's an actual example. In the case of Chile, they are very aware about the accessibility issues, and therefore we are working with their accessibility team to transform, to modify, or to highlight several points of what we already have to their needs and to their legal compliance. And about the second part of the question, which is related with the backend legacies, absolutely, and that's something that we are very aware. And when you try to make the adoption of a design system, you have two ways, right? You can try to do a big bang. That means that from tomorrow at 12 a.m. all the teams are going to use this design system, and all the teams are going to be using this coding language. That can be used if you are, I don't know, in a startup and you're just beginning and you are starting from the beginning. But when you're trying to do the implementation of the design system, a big bang approach is not going to work. So in those cases, you have to establish an ambitious but realistic roadmap, and try to identify which are the points that you have to implement from the very beginning, what's going to be next, and what's going to be at the end. So for with that, you are going to have a clear picture that, okay, for this year we're going to be happy if all the teams are using our UI components, and if we are using the token definition in its definition level. For the next year, then we are going all move into React. For that, we need to do a transposition of our technology, doing this, and that. And for the third year, we're not just going to have the React definition, but also we are going to have all this. We are all going to have the same technical architecture, and for that, we're going to need this, and that. I think that's the key. You have to insist in large corporation, identify the current situation, identify which is your goal at the mid and long term, and decline which should be the objectives to achieve that.
Okay, perfect. Look, we got the last question that we got here on the list is come from Alfonso Barrio Nuevo. And first of all, thanks a lot for the presentation, Nacho. Many times it's very complicated to obtain KPIs when the product portfolio is quite large, like your case. So which tools do you have? I mean, do you have used to gather that 56% time saving?
All right. So for that, that's also true that it's a theoretical model, to be honest with you. That doesn't mean that it has no value. So what we do on a regular basis is that we made some what we call some lab experiments. So we take one random project worldwide, and we double that effort for that single project during one day, and we monitorize how that project is being done by a designer using our design system, and by a designer not using our design system. And during one day and in a random way, we monitorize which are the difference and which are the results and which are the efficiencies. With that, we get into a number of hours saved. That number at the beginning was one number, and every around 2-3 months we do those tests, and thanks to that we are refining that number. Of course, it's a theoretical approach. It's hard for me to say it's absolutely for every project is going to be 36%, but as we do that on a random basis and in different markets, we are able to say after several months that we are around those figures. Also, we are doing those surveys with that allows us to know directly in an anonymous way from all our designers saying, hey, I think the new URL icons definition is crap because this and that, or I love the way information architecture, or I think we do not have enough things for complex tables. That's the way we are right now trying to make or trying to get to know how to improve our design system. Of course, as we use more and more and more, and the adoption rate of our design system keeps growing, and therefore as the amount of people on teams are using our design system, then we collect more data and we are refining that efficiency rates, and we are getting more relevant information about which should be the next steps to be done.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that two people at least ask you about two things that actually all the people. I think that many of the people who are inside of the design system community is looking for, and is clear KPIs from the qualitative aspect and the other one that I don't know how to say right now. So
Quantitative.
that one. That is exactly one. Okay. So it would be great because I know that you Santander as organization are talking with tools, and a little bit. What is the thing? What is your impression? Like the tools are going to help to the design system community on the sense of providing you as Santander organization those KPIs on the form that you need in a near future, or you think that we are far away from that promised land where we can read those values?
Well, I think, and it's absolutely relevant that there are several questions related with the KPIs and the conversion rates and so on, because well, for many corporations, those are key elements. When you work in a bank and when you deal with people that are financial people, that becomes more and more relevant, and for us that's key. And well, that's, I would recommend, if someone here from a startup that wants to invest in creating a KPI model, I think you have a big opportunity there, because I promise you, design system are becoming more and more important, and the more important they are, the companies or the corporation are going to ask us as designers, okay, I invest this amount of hours, of people, of money in this design system, which are the results? That's why we consider that this is key important, and we are trying to get those numbers. And so unfortunately, now there are no not enough tools to monitorize those results. But I think that's just a matter of the maturity of this tool, and we are just in, I don't say the beginning of the era of the design system, but we are just we are not in the peak of the design system yet era. So I think design systems are going to be more and more a key element in large corporations, because the digitalization is not the future, it's the present. Obviously, the number of products is going to increase, and it's going to maintain in a high rate for many years, I expect. We're going to need to uh, to use our talent many times in by exploring new ways, but many of the times what we are going to need, it's a framework that allows us to do things quickly, in a coherent way, in a cohesive way, and with with a quality that ensures some minimum quality, right? So I think design systems are going to be key on that, but we don't have to remain at that level. I consider that if we just consider design systems, I insist, are just for reducing the time to market, then design system is going to be just a commodity. We're just going to be view makers, and our value as a designers is going to decrease dramatically. We have to use design systems to use our time in what's really it's valuable. We have to use our talent in thinking about the flows, thinking about conversion rates, thinking about new ways of exposing the information. That's where the value is. And we have to use design system to not reinventing the wheel, to not spending our time in thinking again about how to do the button, or how, which should be the values of an elevation of a button when in the hover state. That's fine, but let's do it once, and that's it. And let's revisit those decisions, those visual layers every time. I mean, I don't know, once in a year, and revisit and do some reskins. That's fine, but do not waste our time and value in those aspects. for that, I think that's key. Design systems in big and non-big corporations.
Okay, perfect. Okay, Nacho, so that was the last question. So first of all, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for the presentation. Especially thank you for in our name, Design Scale Community Madrid Barcelona, this openness from an organization like Santander. And I hope that I'm pretty sure that everybody likes your presentation. And just that, just thank you.
Well, it was been a pleasure, really, total pleasure. And well, do not hesitate asking me through media. I mean, through LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever. If you have any other doubt or well, any other session like this one, I'd be happy to be with you.
Okay, perfect, great. Okay, for the rest of the people who are following the event right now, just telling you that all the people who are helping to organize this event, and I'm gonna go through them: Abraham, Antonio, Daniel, Sara, Turo, and Victor. We're working hard to bring you new people, new organization, new point of views, new subjects about the scale challenge that we all facing, and we hope to publish really, really soon the next events. So thank you all and hope you have a great time with Nacho and Santander with us. Thank you all. Bye bye.
Thank you so much. See you.